Warning. The following podcast contains explicit language, honest opinions and a sense of humor. Welcome to the Brothers Take.
Hello everybody and welcome back to our podcast. I am Chris, joined again by my brothers Adam and Eric.
Hello. I wonder will we ever not be joined?
Yeah. Should we do an episode sometime? Hello everybody, my name is Chris.
I am on my own.
I'm alone. This is called The Lonely Take. Welcome back to our podcast, The Brothers Take, where we generally discuss video games. In today's episode, we're still going to be talking about video games, but it's been influenced by a movie that we've recently seen. A new movie this year. What? Oh my god. The only one. And that's Christopher Nolan's Tenet. We know that not everyone will have had a chance to see it, and different parts of the world have different scenarios. So when we do talk about the film, we'll be talking about it very loosely and totally non-spoilers. But basically, if you've seen any of the trailers or know anything about the premise, there's huge themes of kind of time manipulation within the film, and that influenced us to talk about the concept of time travel and time manipulation within video games. So really, the movie Tenet is being used as a jumping off point for us to discuss this kind of topic within video games, whether we think it has ever worked, where it hasn't worked, where we'd like to see more of it implemented. We might even point out like games that used time manipulation that you wouldn't normally like that wouldn't be the kind of selling point of the game. Like it's actually a minor mechanic, but if you stop and think about it, that is actually what it is. Stuff like that. So we're going to be talking about the concept of time travel and getting all mind-boggly with it. But we will start off with giving our non-spoiler thoughts on Tenet first. We have talked about video game movies before, and we also did our thoughts on movies coming out for DC fandom. So it's not like we haven't mentioned movies before at all. We make lots of movie references. We are also movie fans, and so movies might come up again in the future more and more. Video games is obviously our main focus, but yeah, that's enough kind of building up the idea of the episode. We're here to talk about time travel. Let's fucking do this. Okay, so let's jump into the conversation and the discussion. Let's talk about Tenet first, since it's the new film that we've seen, and since that kind of inspired the talking point or the topic of this episode. We won't spend too long on it. We're going to talk about it non-spoiler because we know not everyone in the world will have seen it. At the time of recording, by the way, it came out this week. This is launch week for Tenet. So by the time this episode comes out, it will have been out maybe 2 weeks. So at that point, maybe more people will have seen it, and we'll be able to kind of jump into the comments on YouTube or get in touch on social media to let us know their own thoughts on it. But maybe steer away from spoilers a little bit, just to be respectful of other people, because it's going to be a while before everyone actually gets to see this movie. But general impressions, what did you guys think of Christopher Nolan's Tenet?
What do you think, Eric?
I thought, because I think technically I was the first one to see it, even though me and Adam saw it on the same day. I think, Adam, you went for a later showing, did you?
I went at an 8 o'clock watch.
Yeah, so I actually saw it like technically 20 minutes before you.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so I went to the fucking time shit right now. I thought for
well, actually, I saw it first because I saw it last. No, I'm joking. God. I'm joking. It's a time joke. It's
sure, Chris. Sure.
That pause was too long.
Or was it too short? No. All right, let's stop talking about time. The film was for the lack of CGI that they actually use in the film. It's really impressively made. I will admit. So that's That's all I'm going to say on it. Just
it's weird that you have
without
to
spoilers.
admit that. You're like, I will admit that. You know, I didn't want to admit that Christopher Nolan's movie is impressively well made, but you got me.
No. But like a lot of people might be going, oh, well, that definitely couldn't have been done without CGI, and a lot of people might be saying that some shots in some moments are definitely CGI, but it's like no, that this was all most of it.
I don't
was
think there's
actually practical
anything in
effects.
that looked like it could be manipulated digitally. I think it all definitely looked on camera.
I think there was a couple of just moments where there's damage to property that I was like, okay, that's definitely CGI, but it's not bad CGI.
I don't
it's
think
done
so.
well.
I think the whole thing was
Really?
shot for realsies. Yep.
Oh.
And even with the, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was about to actually go into
Really?
something there, but I couldn't. But yes, I think it was all, everything in it, I think, was done for real. Absolutely everything. And that they utilized editing. Really
Very well.
clever editing.
You're saying I think most of us that, but I can't talk about it, but
Yeah.
there's a distinct one where I'm like, no, that is definitely CGI. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm not even. I'm not even second
All
guessing
practical
myself. I'm like, that is definitely CGI, but it's not bad. It's not a complaint.
Oh, well, maybe there's like, yeah, okay, yeah, but I think most of it definitely was on camera.
Yeah, I would
So
agree.
yeah, it's definitely
Really well edited,
yeah.
really well.
It just goes
kind
to
of
show
put
that
together
like
in that sort of aspect.
yeah, like even with movies like which would be heavily CGI'd, which was like Interstellar. We've said this in the past that like he can make what would seem like a mundane task feel exciting. And it just goes to show that like it just takes the collaboration between the actor's performance, his ability to be able to frame the shot, the editing, and then the music, just to make something spectacular without the need for like giant explosions and CGI creatures and all this kind of stuff. Like a lot of that stuff I feel kind of lacks like weight, emotional weight or anything like that, but in this he was able to kind of make it exhilarating without actually showing much. Like it's definitely not the most action-packed thing I've ever seen, but it was still exhilarating. But I think there are like it's not my favorite Nolan film.
No.
I didn't enjoy Dunkirk either, so it like for me this is like a bit of a miss for me personally. I like I did enjoy it, but I don't think I would see it again.
I was gonna say I want to see it again, but when it's out on Blu-ray,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to the cinema to watch it again. I would take it home, change the audio settings to fucking, I don't know.
The
I
mixing
gotta
was
say,
odd.
like,
The mixing was
yeah,
odd.
the mixing was bad. I'm gonna say the music was incredible.
First of all, but I feel like the mixing was deliberate.
I know, but I don't know why. Because like the speaking is at the very bottom of the mix or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? I can't hear a fucking word anyone's saying during all these. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, the gunshots were so loud, and that's not a spoiler. There's gunshots in this movie. The gunshots are so loud that you would nearly flinch.
Yeah, they're impactful.
Like you're like, whoa, fuck me, Jesus. But at times I was like, I'd love them to turn it down. I've never wanted that in a cinema.
Turn
ever.
that down. That's too loud.
Yeah, no, I was like,
You're just getting old, Chris. That's
much.
what's happening there. Your ears.
I know
Not as young
that's
as they used to
definitely
I thought it was.
if you look online, that's like a universal complaint with this film is that the mixing just felt off. Now I do believe it was deliberate. I think this film was designed to be a second watch, but I didn't quite. I feel like if I watched it again, there would be little things that I'd pick up.
Yeah.
Normally, for me, like I rewatch movies multiple times, and I love films that you can, every time you watch it, you find something new with it. But it has to be, gripping the first time as well. And I just didn't quite get it with this one. Like with Inception, there was enough there. Like that's a confusing film. Inception's a very confusing film, but there's enough to be able to kind of go, yeah, I get this, and I understand why they're on this mission, and I understand the weight of it, and all this kind of stuff. With this one, I feel like I have to watch it a second time to understand why they're doing anything in this film. It's not
I was gonna ask that next. Is like, did you just follow it?
Like, it's not that the time travel is like the time travel. I think is like this is easy to understand, which is weird. Time travel is normally a mindfuck. But I think the time travel is easy to understand. I thought what was difficult to understand is why are they on this mission? You know, like they give us a reason kind of halfway through, I think. But
kind of catch up.
But like initially, it's kind of like, what? Like, why are you invested in any of this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. No, I don't know if I can say this because I don't know if because it's down to the editing of a particular moment. But I don't know if I can say on the basis of it might spoil.
Well, if you feel like it'll spoil, then
experience. Yeah, no, I can't say. But yeah, no, I did feel that as well. Like I did come out of the film going, "What the fuck was that about?"
Yeah,
like just. Yeah, I think when I was talking to you, Adam, the other day or something, I think we both agreed that when it comes to world building, he did a better job with Interstellar and Inception.
Yes.
Yeah.
Than he did with this.
What I think is an interesting note, and I could be totally wrong on this. Like obviously he has written stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
He got all these big budget movies.
Yeah.
But generally he has a co-writer. And this movie ended with written and directed by Christopher Nolan and nobody else.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got a...
I wondered, I was like, okay, he is fantastic at visuals. He's an incredible visual director, right? Yeah. But I was like, I wonder, could it have helped in this case? And by the way, I'm actually not trashing the film. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I was like, whoa, slow down. I wonder would it have helped to have someone to bounce off to go, I think there's a pacing issue here.
Think his brother could have helped.
Maybe. I don't. Yeah, or David S. Goyer or someone like he's worked with a lot of people before. It's just that Inception as kind of, and it does get kind of compared to Inception, I think the most of all of his other movies.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most like that one in terms of like tone and style and everything. But like Inception, as confusing as it could have been, I didn't find it confusing, but as confusing as it could have been, there were quiet moments where you could like take a breath and start taking in some of it, and there was lots of moments where they could reflect and discuss the thing that's going on, and then jump into the crazy action again. And this has like maybe one scene in the entire film where everything just like comes to a conversation, and then other than that, it's like go here, go here, go here, go here. It's kind of the start of the Rise of Skywalker. The first like 15 minutes of the Rise of Skywalker, like, but bang, for the
bang,
whole
bang.
film.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang. You're like, whoa. Danny, who was on for our Snake Eater episode, me and him were briefly talking about it. He'd seen it as well. And he was like, well, what did you think about it? I was like, same thing I said to him. I thought the music was amazing. You wouldn't even like, because I was kind of worried.
Good.
I was like, am I going to miss Hans Zimmer?
It was good.
I didn't at all. The music was the highlight for me. It was incredible. It was really high octane, and I was actually like bopping my head at the start when the music kicked off. Brilliant. I thought the visuals and choreography incredible.
Yeah. I
thought the performances were really good, and in some cases better than others. But my mind felt like it was running a marathon, and he said the very same man. I felt like I was running a marathon, and by the time I caught up, I wondered why did I run the marathon at all. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if it was a negative thing or if he was just like it's not actually as complicated as you're making it out to be.
Yeah,
and I think
as well is that like without saying anything, that I find, if you've watched Christopher Nolan films, you always know that there's some form of prestige, isn't there? There's like he has something. He introduces a concept or he introduces something, and then by the end of the film, there is some form of payoff. There's like it gets back full circle. In this, that doesn't really happen. There is a kind of a payoff, but it's in relation to a much later scene. And has nothing really to do with
Well,
the
actually,
beginning. Just it kind of does if you think about it enough. But
I was there with my girlfriend, and she followed it perfectly fine. And she actually pointed something out that I didn't realize, and that does actually pay off to a scene at the start of the film.
that's what I mean. Yeah, it does, but it's not like, it's not as obvious. It's not as obvious
It's
as something
not as
like
obvious. You really want to be like eagle-eyed watching it, like
yeah.
to get that, yeah.
So not that I want everything to be spoon-fed to me, but this film does do that as well, which is weird. Like, there's a lot of exposition in this movie. You know, there's very
and a lot
little...
of pull-ups. Ever notice that, like, nearly any quiet moment, you just have, like, the main chap just doing pull-ups? It's like, here's, like, a panning shot, and here he's doing pull-ups.
That's because he's preparing himself. He's got to like keep up with the movie, and he's like, no, we can't have a quiet moment. We got to keep going. We got to keep going, brother.
Yeah.
He was a badass, and there was moments in the film where I felt like this is a Bond movie. You know, like there's that, like, you know, the villain, so to speak. He's like, he almost kind of reminds me of what's his name? Scaramanga. Not Scaramanga. Is it Scaramanga? Was the License to Kill one? Yeah.
No,
sorry.
Sanchez.
I kind of had like that vibe to it, where he's not like necessarily this like big super villain with a giant organization, so to speak, but he's just got like, you know, he's got money basically.
Yes.
I just kind of got those vibes, and like the way the protagonist infiltrates and stuff like that. Like, I was like, you know, I'd love Nolan to do a Bond movie.
But I think everyone would, and at this point, it's like we just let him. We just give him I think the perfect opportunity is the next Bond film, because if this one really is Daniel Craig's last one, then the next one is possibly a reboot of the series again or something like that.
Yeah.
Or at least he'd have a new actor and he could give his take on Bond, and it's the perfect opportunity. Like, I think if they don't line up Christopher, well, maybe they've had talks about it and maybe it doesn't line up, but I think he has pretty much shown in a lot of his films that he wants to make a James Bond movie, whether it's the whole Q style thing in the Dark Knight trilogy with Lucius Fox, where the literal remake of On Her Majesty's Secret Service in Inception, or this whole film, this globe-trotting adventure with this stylish guy with the suit who's meeting people and has one-liners. He was brilliant, actually. He was really good. I enjoyed his lines a lot. Eric, I didn't gauge. Did you enjoy the film? Would you watch it again? What's your take on it?
I'd probably say with you, like, I wouldn't be too much of in a hurry to watch it in cinema again, mainly because I would like to be able to hear for the rest of my life. I wouldn't want my eardrums to burst too quick. But yeah, so I'd probably get on like Blu-ray or something and then watch it at home where I can control the sound and shit. But yeah, no, I did love it. I did really like it. And yeah, because James Bond was his biggest inspiration for the film. And like talking to the actors and you talking to everyone, he was saying like all these different, like he was mentioned different spy films that were inspiration. But he made to make sure that none of them copied any of the spy.
You keep freezing, man. The time travel thing is really fucking up with our episode right now. You keep freezing, man.
All right. So did you catch anything I said? Or
you were
inspired
saying
by Bond.
It's inspired by Bond.
Right, but to make sure that they didn't copy off Bond, none of them watched any Bond films while watching the film.
All right, okay.
Just so they can get the essence of a spy film rather than just trying to mimic one.
Right, okay.
Which I think they did capture. It definitely did feel absolutely like a spy film.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. No, you captured that absolutely. I came out with more positives than negatives. I really liked it. In a way, I think I can't help it. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. He's kind of on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. So, like, when any of his movies are not the best thing you've ever seen that year, you know, well, this actually probably is the best thing. It's the only thing we've seen this year. So we'll have to wait and see. But, like, yeah, like, if it's not, like, the fucking most mind-blowing movie you've ever seen, then you're like, it was a little bit of a disappointment, you know what I mean? But had it been another director, you might go, wow, this guy, I can't wait to see what he does next. You know, that way? Or it's like, that was impressive what I saw in that. Some of the choreography is amazing. I would be buying this on Blu-ray. I will watch it again.
I do think everyone should watch it. Even outside of just like I think most people will enjoy this film anyway. You know, I don't think you're going to come out of this film going, well, that was a lot of shite. Like, I think you will get something out of it. But I think as well, like, if you can, just go support your local cinema, support this industry, because it's really, it's kind of a huge weight and a huge burden that the entire, like, kind of cinema industry.
Well, here's the thing, like, even if you're not totally, like, interested in this film, and I think you will enjoy it, whether you understand it or not, you can even shut your brain off if you want to just go, plot doesn't matter. Let me treat this like Fast and Furious and just watch explosions and cool action. Cool, awesome. If you want, you can do that. But if you really want to see Wonder Woman or Black Widow or the new James Bond movie or any of these other or Quiet Place Part 2, any of these movies that have been delayed, which are made and waiting to be released.
Yeah.
The only way is to show that it's worthwhile. I will say,
and without spending 30 quid just to watch it on a streaming service as well.
Yeah, what they're doing at Mulan is fucking horseshit.
Because if the cinemas, if that industry doesn't do well out of all this pandemic, then that's the future we're going to have. It's going to be 30 quid premieres sitting on your couch.
Boring.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Not into that.
Where this episode is sponsored by the cinema.
Cinemas worldwide.
I'm only joking. But here in Ireland, I don't know what they're like everywhere else. Here in Ireland, anyway, the cinema we went to here in Wexford, all the seats were really well spread out. Like, they don't sell any seats that are in front, beside, or behind you. And they operate a one-way system and everything like that. Because I had a couple people message me actually because I put up a post saying that I'd gone to see it, and a couple people did actually message to go, how was it? Because they want to go to the cinema, but they're kind of anxious because they don't know what it's like. And I was like, honestly, it was like really good. Everyone wears masks when they go in. Once you're seated, take it off to have your snacks or whatever, watch the movie, and then put it on when you're done. And
honestly, I think it's an improvement.
The way you went in, it's fine.
I think it's an improvement.
I mean, obviously they're not going to.
Yeah, but it's nice. It's nice not having anyone near you.
Like on the chair beside me, and like, wow, I have loads of space. It's great. Not that I'm loving the pandemic, but I enjoyed the extra space in the cinema, I must say. So no, it was a good going experience. It was an enjoyable movie. If you have maybe like issues with really loud noises, you might find that part.
There's also New Mutants is released. There's a preview, I think it's this weekend or something. Like during this weekend, there's a preview of New Mutants. So if you're not a big fan of loud noises, there's also New Mutants, which is a new film, which you can go see that if you want.
Someone posted about, just when you're saying that, I haven't seen New Mutants, so I don't like anything, but someone posted New Mutants is the worst X-Men movie ever made, right? Whatever, that's someone's opinion. But Maisie Williams, who's in it, retweeted that and says, sounds good, looks like a must go see. And I just thought it was a really good, like, she didn't get all like, well, you obviously just didn't understand it, or like, she didn't get all kind of, because people are allowed to not like your fucking movies, like, but just the way she handled it, I thought was funny. Like, she retweeted it and said, sounds like a must see. But the New Mutants is an interesting one, because like, that was supposed to come out in 2017.
Something like that. A while back. Yeah.
And then the whole Disney buying Fox thing happened, I think, and then it just got put on the long haul. And now it just seems like they're just like, oh, just put it out. Just put it out. Who cares? Like, just get rid of it. But I remember seeing the initial trailer and I was really interested in it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the New Mutants. So anyway,
we really went on a tangent.
Yeah. Tenet, if you have seen it, and if you're watching this on YouTube, jump into the comments to let us know what you thought of Tenet. Try and keep it non-spoiler-ish if you can, because a lot of people probably haven't seen it. And then if you're listening to us in audio platforms on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audio Podcasts, whatever you listen to us on, touch base with us on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Brothers Take. Jumping off of that then, so Tenet, and this is not a spoiler, they do say it in the trailers, Tenet deals with time manipulation, this concept that Christopher Nolan talks about called inversion. He doesn't say much about it. You kind of have to watch the film to know more about it, because people did say, oh, I hear you're making a time travel movie, and he said in an interview, it's not really about time travel, it's about time inversion, whatever, right? You could take it any way you want. But based off of that, we want to look at the concept of time travel and time manipulation within video games, where it's done well, which ones we like, which ones we don't like, etc., etc. Time travel has been used as a plot point in many games. You look at Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, you look at the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, BioShock Infinite deals with it and other concepts as well in terms of space and time. But then there's also time as a mechanic. Do you remember there was like a first-person shooter game?
Time Shift.
Is that what it was called? Where you could go in and...
Yeah, that was the main one I was going to talk about, was Time Shift, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we'll get to that. So anyway, basically, time has been used as both a story point and a gameplay mechanic. And so we're going to discuss how we feel about it. I wonder, should we focus on where it works for us in stories first and then where it works? No, we won't. We'll jump to whatever we want to jump to. Eric, you were going to talk about
Time Shift.
Time Shift. Actually, I'm not familiar with too much, so you're going to have to like fill me in on it.
Well, I'd never cleared it. I got to a point and went, this is just fucking horseshit.
Okay, so did it not work for you? Or
well, no, the time works, kind of. So the idea that at some moment you could stop time, which freezes enemies in place, then you can move and shoot them, and that's kind of one way to dodge bullets. Or if like a building falls, let's say in front of you, you can use time you can reverse the time so that it goes back together and you can go past. So you can use it as like a tool within combat or as something to help you like get past an obstacle. I think you can also speed up time as well. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. That makes bullets hit you faster, but you could do that too.
Lacerate yourself in more painful ways.
So I thought the concept was really cool. And the idea that you have gone back in time because you're following like some sort of criminal or some sort of war master. I can't remember the story. It's been years since I played it. Some guy steals a suit at the time shift. He goes back in time.
As soon as you talk about time, you're just like, blah, 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 blah. You're like, there's something is interfering, man, and it does not want you to tell us about this game. You're freezing a lot. We must note that as well, because we are still recording on Skype, recording abroad due to the pandemic, and also it's a handy way for us to get video footage as we record. But because of that, sometimes there can be audio cutouts and things like that. But yes, Eric, tell us more about Time Shift.
Right. So you have to go back in time essentially to stop a guy who is like turned Earth into his own like one Earth regime sort of thing. See, like I think you go back like to the 1950s, but because of the technology of his suit, he's brought that back with him and has like made the world more advanced, but also has it like under his iron fist as well. But it's just the mechanics of controlling and manipulating time was a cool concept, but because it's a first-person shooter, it suffers from being a first-person shooter, and therefore is a bit kind of bland within telling the story.
Okay. Do you think that game would have worked better as a third-person, like action adventure game?
Like I mean, there has been first-person games that have had good stories, but yeah, maybe as a third-person shooter or just focus more on the story. It just feels very much like, hey, let's make a first-person shooter. We'll use time. Isn't that cool? Rather than something like Ocarina of Time or Prince of Persia's Sands of Time, where they focus on the story and then time is very much a central aspect. I just thought that as a game dealt with a lot more versions of manipulating time. That's why I just decided to bring it up.
Yeah. Do you think they went first-person shooter for that game because first-person shooters, like, let's be honest, at the start of the PlayStation 3 era, they were the shit, right? They were the shit.
Oh, absolutely. Because there was Call of Duty, there was Halo, there was BioShock,
or was it to kind of bring it closer to the action of manipulating time itself?
No, I think it was absolutely just because I just think it was first-person was the shit back at that time. I think because that was... It was. I think it was around that time where nearly every new game that came out was first person. Because I think it was around the time of Haze as well. Haze was another first person game.
That's the one I was thinking of. I don't remember, but it didn't. They had like a yellow visor.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is that
but
right?
that doesn't
Hey,
that,
I
that
remember
doesn't
that.
deal with time. That deals with drug addiction.
Oh, is that not about time as well?
I don't think so.
No, I think you
That
take
deals
drugs
with
in it that enhance your abilities or something like that.
Oh,
it. Like that game deals. Yeah, it deals with all the soldiers. The guys with the yellow visors are all doped up on this new drug that makes them like real fucking psychedelic and crazy. That's kind of what that game
It's a
deals with.
cool concept, a fucking dreadful game.
Yeah, I think
there were
again it
so
suffered.
many of those kinds of games at the start of the PS3, wasn't there? Where it's literally just like a generic guy in a suit and it's first person shooter. Like,
Yep.
there was loads of them, and I think a lot of them were kind of inspired by the Killzone kind of a thing. Like it kind of
Possibly, I think everyone was just trying to get that Halo kind of hit, you know?
Yeah,
yes,
The
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that, like, the thing that made Halo so fucking good was that they took like, it was originally supposed to be an RTS game, like Command and Conquer, that type of game.
Oh, okay.
But then someone in the development studio, he shifted the camera so that it was looking through the eyes of one of the characters in it, and he just thought that this new perspective in an RTS style game just made a brand new genre of kind of like the FPS. It just elevated the FPS. That's why Halo's fucking good. So
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
no one else has kind of, I suppose, reinvented the genre like they did.
Was there any particular game, Adam, you wanted to give a shout out to
Well, I
that
just
you
wanted,
think
like,
does time travel well?
well, there's a few, because I think there's two different things. Like you said, there's time travel and then there's time manipulation.
Yes.
And a lot of games that use time travel, it's like a plot device. It's done.
Yes.
It's done in story. So Skyrim uses time travel.
I wonder, should we split those up then? Should we
You can if
talk
you want. I'm just going to
time travel and
run
then
through
time manipulation?
the ones that would use time travel.
Yeah, okay,
and
let's
then
stick
the
to
ones
that.
that had the manipulation. But yeah, Skyrim uses time travel, but you wouldn't necessarily call it a game that's kind of, that time traveling is a game like component. You wouldn't really say that, not like you would
Right.
with Ocarina of Time. But again, Ocarina of Time it's more plot device. When you
Yes, yeah.
when you go between the time zones, it feels like you're almost loading up a different level or so. It's kind of you can't quickly switch between the two.
Yeah.
Whereas like direct time manipulation, I think Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is probably one of the best examples of that, and a very clever usage of it. It'll you collect. I think you defeat enemies and you can collect sands of time essentially. And if you fail either platforming or in combat, you can reverse the motion back 10 seconds and then try again. And I think for its time, like that's phenomenal. That means it's kind of recording the last 10 seconds of every single thing you do, so that at any point you could switch back. Like that's quite an advanced mechanic, and surprising that it's not really utilized a lot.
That's also actually, when we talked about video game movies, we never mentioned the Prince of Persia
Prince of
movie.
Persia one.
I actually haven't seen it, and
It's
that's why I wouldn't
not-
have mentioned it.
not
Is it
good.
not good?
No, well, it's not good when you think about like when you look at Tenet, like film is the perfect medium for capturing time travel in the way that Tenet did it, because it has been done since the beginning of cinema. Like Charlie Chaplin, when he's doing his like little thing where he kicks his hat up onto his head. Well,
Yes.
that is time manipulation because he did it backwards. He initially just had to fall off his head, and then he edits it to go backwards, and it looks like it's going up onto his head.
Which was groundbreaking at the time.
So time manipulation is inherently in cinema. So it's the perfect medium to actually explore it. I think games are as well, because you've got all this data and you can record it and you can move back through it. Prince of Persia movie had that opportunity to do that. It's like, use your medium. Like, I mean, you're you're capturing time. Film is time caught in motion kind of thing, and they just didn't. They just went, well, he looks like the prince, and that's good, I guess.
Ben Kingsley would make a great villain.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, whereas if they actually had taken the qualities of film that could also be applied or was applied in games, they could have done something really special there. But Braid, remember we were talking in the state of play, the last state of play. Braid got a remaster, or at least a kind of a more up-res version of it. Braid's another game that uses direct time manipulation, and you can do it as much as you want and whenever you want. And it's very similar to the Prince of Persia one. So if you don't make it perfectly, then you can just like quickly reverse and go again. So you don't have to, fail and then wait for it to load and then try it again and all this kind of stuff. You can just go whoop back to where you wanted to.
I like your little whoop.
Whoop. And then just another one that came to mind was the Arkham games.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, like when you're trying to figure out the crime scene, you do
Arkham
kind
Origins.
Yeah, and the VR one, you're trying to like reverse to a certain point to try and find the next piece of evidence. I just think that's a really clever way of doing it. So I think time manipulation is more impressive than time travel in games.
Yeah. Well, I think time travel you kind of can't give it as a full mechanic in a way, because I suppose you could. Never mind.
Because this is where,
especially with the new SSD card for PS5, considering it's so seamless with its loading.
Yeah, you could really just hop between the two. Like, the future of gaming is definitely has so much possibilities with time manipulation and time travel. But what I would love to see from games, or a future game, and maybe there is a game that exists like this and someone could let us know, but I'm not sure if there is one. And that is like in Mass Effect or like in Telltale games, or even the Quantic Dream ones. You always have decisions that will change the course of the game, right? The butterfly effect, so to speak.
Yeah.
What if you could go back, and how would that affect the butterfly effect going forward?
Is that not what Life is Strange was about?
Kind of. Again, it's a plot device. You don't get to decide where to go back.
No, you don't. And it would be cool that, like, because you choose what you say, and there's points where you choose an action over another action.
Yeah.
I rather enjoyed that game, actually.
It is a good one.
It
takes a while.
Nice. Like it feels a bit like kind of a Netflix drama.
Yeah.
And it's stylistic. It works. But it's cool that basically the whole idea of the game is getting to know, or getting to rekindle an old friendship with a friend.
Yeah.
Who you, through time travel and time manipulation, this ability that your character ends up discovering she has. There's no real explanation as to why, she just has it. She saves her friend from a shooting in a bathroom. And then as a result, she keeps seeing these future visions of this storm coming to her town. And every time her friend gets into danger, she saves her friend, but she still keeps getting these visions of this storm. And basically what it comes down to is, because she fucked with time, she's inevitably causing this storm that's going to wipe out her town. And so she has to make a choice as to whether to let her friend die to stop the storm, which is something she just doesn't want to do, or let the storm kill everyone in the town, which I thought was cool, because like it makes you go back. Like, if you make that choice, spoilers, Life is Strange. But if you've played it, do let us know what you think about it. But it puts you in a position where you've gotten to know this character, but it puts you back to a point before they've rekindled their friendship to make the choice. And so those memories with the character, like your main character has them, but this person now doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they could just die in a bathroom meaninglessly.
Yeah, but
it means a lot to your character because of the way the game played out.
Yeah.
Or stay with her and let a storm ravage your town. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. I feel like if things to save their friend. It's like, I mean, I get that you like the friend, but are you fucking nuts? Like, you can't let us do hundreds of innocent people.
Let the storm just evacuate the town and let the storm destroy the houses. Fine.
She
Besides,
can't explain why it happened. She can't.
That is
Besides,
it is a good game though. I thought
it's done well.
Yeah, and the use of time travel. Again, you don't necessarily get to choose where you go to, but it is done really, really well, and the choices obviously have great effects.
But it does give you moments where you can freeze time and rewind it as you try to solve a problem.
Yeah,
I distinctly remember one.
That's good.
It annoyed the shit out of me actually. Just there's one point where you're like, because you have to do a very specific thing and you have very limited time to kind of do it, and you keep rewinding, and it kind of gets annoying. But there's a bit where she's like, your friend is like stuck on a train track.
Oh,
and there's
yeah.
a couple of things you have to do before the train hits her to try and save her, and you have to keep rewinding the train to buy yourself more time to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And it took me so many times to actually figure out what the fuck I was supposed to be doing, because there's like a sequence of events and you have to do it in a particular order to save your friend, and the train comes pretty fast. Who knew? Trains are fast.
Yeah, that game though, it takes a while to really get into it. I think, its first episode is not good.
No.
But once it gets into it, that goes places.
Yeah, it's darker than it appears.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's much darker than it appears. In fact, it's pretty fucking freaky.
Yeah.
When you get towards the end of it. But it's good. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the way it utilized time. I kind of wish there was an explanation. It's the one area of the game, only because it's not that everything needs an explanation. But she is just this teenage girl that suddenly discovers she has this ability and starts playing around with it.
Mm.
And there's no kind of talk around
She's a
there being any
superhero.
kind of mythology or anything like that. Yeah, I know, but it's like just where did she get it from? Like, where did it come
Maybe she was
from?
born with it, Chris. Maybe she's Maybelline.
I'm just saying it's my only little gripe at the game. Other than that, it's really good.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
good.
tackles the concept of time travel really well. I do agree as well. I think Arkham Origins, that VR kind of detective.
Yeah, not really
Stuff.
time travel, because you're kind of like it's kind of reenacting, or at least trying to imagine what the scene was like. It probably didn't actually play it that way, so he's just trying to use as much data as he can to try and reconstruct
Pretty close,
it.
though.
But the idea of that you could just kind of move time back and stop it back and forward as much as you want to try and find each kind of key piece of evidence. That's really cool.
Yeah, they do that in Detroit as well, don't they? Detroit kind of like
That's right,
borrowed
they do
that
it, yeah.
aspect from
Yeah.
Origins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
kind of method in terms of gameplay, time manipulating to kind of solve problems or figure out puzzles and things, I think that works.
Yeah.
I think that works really well. The whole rewinding, fast forwarding, playing it slower, playing it faster, in real time. Like, if you could do that in a game with the actual environment, that'd be so sick. I tell you, I'd love to play a game where, like, something like Metal Gear Solid, like some spy espionage kind of game, where your character has the ability to see into the future. And so you can like see a room or see a base before you go in. And essentially what you're doing is you're planning what you're going to do. And then you execute it. And so that way, if you could see where everyone's positioned, so you mark them. And then when you go in real time, their positions are marked for you because you went and did it. Or maybe you plan ahead to figure out, if I go that way, I'll die. But if I go that way, I don't know, something like that I think would be a really cool way. So it's not, you're not freezing time or time traveling, but you just have the ability to see forward in time. And you could even build a plot around that where you've seen like some devastating thing that's going to happen. There's no evidence that it's going to happen. There's no one has actually given you this assignment, but you know it's going to happen. So maybe you've gone rogue to kind of stop something that hasn't even happened yet. And
Yeah.
I think that would be fucking cool.
I think another thing I'd love to see is kind of similar to like what Death Stranding has, which is not necessarily time travel for you, but rather your environment is kind of moving through time a little bit because of the rain has time fall, so vegetation grows really quickly and then it dies really quickly.
Oh, that's fucking
I think
sick.
it'd be cool to have something similar, like especially with like the SSDs and like with the Ratchet and Clank game, the way they're able to render new worlds really, really quickly. You're able to just jump through and so imagine having something where it's like your character, like the environment around you moves quickly through time. So as you're kind of trying to move through, like I'm thinking like maybe like a third person kind of like military game, kind of like Metal Gear, I guess. But imagine like moving through.
Basically, we just want more Metal Gear games.
We want more Metal Gear games. Because imagine if it was like you're set in World War II or prior to, right? But like you're quickly seeing the like Nazi Germany like rise essentially around you, and then as you're progressing through the streets, the buildings start to crumble because of the bombs dropping and stuff, and how it like moves, and or even how the geography might change in an environment where you can see like trees growing around you and collapsing, and maybe the landscape shifts, volcanic eruption, and how that would change your environment just as you're moving. Like all this, just like your environment completely changing around you. I think
That'd
like that could add like really cool kind of Uncharted style set pieces where you're like trying to, instead of just buildings randomly collapsing, it's like your environment is constantly changing. So you have to like, manipulate or try and jump over obstacles, and like you could do some really cool shit, especially with the new technology coming out where you could render and load those new environments so quickly.
I'd enjoy that. I think that would need to be like a short game.
Well,
what I'm
taking,
like a journey type thing.
Well, what I'm taking is like the idea of like you could be doing espionage, but it's like you can go back in time to any location, but like whatever the machine was at some point, maybe the climax of the game or some heightened point, it like fucking malfunctions or something goes really, really wrong, and it's now fucking
like
now it's like
climax.
going like really, really fast and shit, and you're trying to like get yourself to safety because anything could happen at this moment. There's like all kinds of things happen. Like you could even be going so far as through evolution where all of a sudden there's certain creatures that you haven't seen before because it's like we're gone so fucking far through time.
That would be fucking mindfucky, but awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
I think something like because I'm just thinking about like what can the new hardware give us that we haven't seen before. So that or like I said, decision making, like actually going back in time changes your decisions going forward a little bit more than what has been done in Life is Strange.
Yeah, that would be cool. Eric, is there a certain thing you would love to see in a game going forward in terms of either time travel or time manipulation, whether that's plot wise or gameplay wise?
I actually remember, I think it was a few years ago, I had a concept for an idea where it's similarly enough to what Adam was saying, but almost more like Ratchet and Clank's Rift Apart. Yeah, but better. Where you start off as a character in a particular point of time. So let's say, I think I came up with this around actually when Black Flag came out. I have no idea how I came up with it because Black Flag doesn't really deal with time travel, but kind of does. But the idea was like, let's say you were a pirate and you're going around, you're out of it, and then you get like attacked by the Navy, you fall in the water and stuff, whatever, your ship explodes. But when you get up on the beach and like you just get up and you're like, oh look, I'm on an island, you go through the island and now you're in like I don't know, like fucking Normandy or something. Like maybe like you could be in and it's World War II and you got the planes, and then watching this character jump between time, like it is a plot point, but in doing a plot point it does change gameplay mechanics because you'd have to constantly adapt to your now new terrain.
Yeah.
And then watching this guy see like what was life like before the age of piracy and then what life is like afterwards, so such as like World War II or the Vietnam or even modern era, or even seeing ships in space. So while he started off with like ships in the boat and like they had like stories about krakens and monsters, now it's like seeing entire worlds and stars and watching what almost that could do to somebody. Seeing time and knowing that you're like the only person able to do this, and knowing that everyone you knew and loved is, and then making acquaintances with other people, but you kind of can't really be connected to them because you know you're going to live, but they're going to die.
So is the
So I
idea
think-
that the character keeps time jumping whether he wants to or not?
Constantly. Yeah, so I suppose not really, like, you can't manipulate it whenever you want, but just kind of focusing on that sort of idea. And it's especially with the SSD card, you could do it so simultaneously, like so there would be no
You
load
could do it a
screen
fucking
time.
SSD card on this fucking call. That's to make fucking conversation simultaneous. I think it's a fucking cool idea, though. Yeah, it would be more of a plot-driven thing, wouldn't it? Where at certain, maybe you finish a chapter, and then a time jumps to a different era, and then you have all these different set pieces and environments to experience.
I guess the Assassin's Creed games
I'd
kind
play
of
any of these games, to be honest with you.
Assassin's Creed kind of deals with, you know, kind of going back in time to change something. Uses it for entire game. But
Essentially, it does.
yeah.
Like I know they kind of say it's not, but then they have these weird moments where like doesn't Ezio and Altair, don't they actually have a conversation with each other?
I think so.
Yeah, at some point they do.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Are you alright?
Altair becomes aware. Yeah, are you able to see or hear me or anything?
Yeah.
Trying to fucking fix this shit. Yeah. So it's like,
We're real professional right now.
yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on at the moment. I don't know why it's so bad.
These things happen. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's thematic to the episode, really.
It is thematic.
It's planned, we swear.
It's like we'll just
Yeah,
start seeing
Altair
Eric, like
gets-
he's actually moving through time, like he'll let grow a big grey beard and his
By the end of it,
receding
he-
hairline.
Hey, what do
What?
you mean receding? That's what I'd say if I was him. I was like, hey, fuck you. I'm not going to recede. You probably will.
No, ever.
Well, they say if for most men anyway, if your hair doesn't recede, you're going to lose it at the back.
Oh.
Oh, they also apparently say that if the faster you can grow a beard, the more likely you're going to go bald.
Who are they?
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to know.
I don't know.
Who are
Let's
they?
get to the
Science
bottom of
says
this.
now.
Who is
Science
they?
says-
That's how you if you want any kind of information out there fast,
Ask they.
title your article "Science Says," and it'll just be shared everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's fucking believable or not. Science says.
Science
Who the fuck
says-
is science? Who says? Who did the research? Anyway, sorry.
Science, man.
One scientist is not all of science.
Yeah, science says.
Yeah.
That's fucking. That's crazy. Like, sorry, that's a rant. Eric, you were saying something about Altair and Ezio.
Altair got knowledge, I think, from the piece of Eden. That actually no, Altair and Ezio don't talk. Ezio talks to Desmond. I think is what it actually is.
Okay, well, even that's.
That's definitely time
Ezio
travel.
Ezio gets knowledge of from the piece of Eden that there is Desmond, and that Desmond at some point will be watching this moment. So then he just talks to Desmond, even though there's like no one else in the room.
Okay, well, that's
So his
definitely
message
a
gets
time plot device.
Yeah, the message then is essentially goes through time. Like
Another-
a text message.
Another video game series that has dealt with time travel, both in mechanics and in plot devices, and people might not think about it when they think about time travel, is the Final Fantasy series.
All
The
of them.
very first Final Fantasy. So it's really rooted in it. The very first Final Fantasy was all about going back in time to kill this evil warlord before he had risen to power.
Hmm.
That was the whole plot. But then in terms of mechanics, if you go through the games, there's these two abilities, haste and slow,
Oh, yes.
which you can cast on your enemies, and that is time manipulation. You can make you faster and your enemy slower. And I thought that was most effective in yes.
It's the Durex of spells.
Yeah, it's the Did you not mean Duracell? No,
I actually didn't, but Duracell is another good one. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I'm not even going to bother explaining. But yeah,
why just Durex?
in one of the ads of Durex, it says speeds her up, slows him down.
Sponsored by.
Oh my
No
god.
words are sponsored. Oh, I thought you were talking about like batteries. I was like, surely you mean Duracell.
No, that only speeds you up.
But yeah, I thought that was most effective in Final Fantasy X. Because the haste bit, not only does the animations move fast or slow, but that's not really what it does. You get more turns, because in a turn-based combat system, you get more turns than your enemy would get when you have haste. And if you put slow on your enemy, they get less turns.
Yeah.
So it gives you the chance to get more hits in. But it is like a time manipulation spell. They even have this big clock thing that like comes on both, depending on which spell you're casting. So I thought that was really a really cool way. Like I use that a lot in. It's probably the most effective buff and debuff in Final Fantasy X. That's one as well. Like the plot was, at least at the start, your understanding of it is that Tidus has traveled through time, and he comes from a place that kind of caused this world, because he comes from a place where they had these huge machine cities, and they kind of corrupted the planet in a way, and then sin came and destroyed it all, and now you're seeing the remnants of it 1,000 years later, and everyone else has to live with your past mistakes, essentially. That's a better plot than when you find out what it actually is.
Yeah.
Like it would have been better if it was time travel. That's one where it's like, that should be, why didn't you just do time travel? Or why didn't you have some twist about how he time traveled? But not a twist as to he didn't really time travel. We don't really fucking know what he is. Does anybody understand?
They were dead all along.
All right, big spoilers. Does anybody understand what the fuck Tidus is in Final Fantasy X? If someone does, and you're watching this, comment, let us know. I have played that game many times. I understand pretty much all of it, except for what he actually is. I've heard the explanation many times, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
Are they called fiends or spawns of sin? Is that what they're called?
But he's not.
Sin spawns?
There are spawns of sin, yeah,
Maybe
but
is,
they're
Chris.
very monstrous looking.
I don't think he is. Well, all right.
Where's your evidence, bro?
Well, okay, I'll give you the evidence. The quote from Bahamut. The Faith Bahamut says to him, "You are a dream," and he's like, "What? I'm dreaming?" No, you are a dream.
Yeah. So
Maybe Bahamut was just complimenting. Bahamut's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, you are such a dream.
You're such a dream, Titus.
Yeah,
Look
you're
at your blonde hair
dreamy.
and your blue eyes.
So dreamy.
Look at that uneven pants, because fuck wearing normal pants.
Laugh for me, Titus. Laugh for me.
Ha ha ha.
But yeah, I do. That's what I wish it was actually time travel, because there's an interesting parallel if it is.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not means it's like, okay, so we don't really know if the Zanarkand he lived in was exactly like that. So we're like, it wasn't really a glimpse at anything. It was just this glimpse of this idolized. Wouldn't it be nice if it was like this all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really get it. But okay, I suppose one I want to bring up. We talked about it a while back, but on the concept of time travel and time manipulation. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I suppose it hasn't been confirmed yet, but the biggest theory is that, or at least the most of the theories out there, is that game is playing with time loops or alternate timelines, stuff like that.
Yeah. It's hard to know.
It is hard to know.
Really wanting to really talk about this game again, aren't you, Chris?
I'll talk about that game.
But those
anytime
type
you
of like time travel as a plot, yeah, so that would be an example of time travel as a plot as opposed to as a game mechanic. Watching like
Well, that's when you do
Terminator
time
movies.
loops, right? That's when you do time loops. Yeah.
Yeah, the Terminator movies where it's like, in order for the Terminator to go back in time, Skynet needed to have made them, but Skynet didn't make them without the Terminator that went back in time in order for them to get the technology in order to make the Terminator. It's like that shit. It's like, so what was the beginning? Like that shit I fucking love.
Like, they were going to touch on that with the old Planet of the Apes films, but they kind of botched it. Like the original 5. So they have
they did do it in
the
the third
one.
The third one they did do it.
Oh, so the third one they go back in time. They have Caesar, and the fifth one, or the fourth one, Caesar and all the apes rise up. But then by the fifth one, Caesar changes the events.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that's where I'm talking about. Like it's almost borderlining. Yes, this is the time loop where.
Well, those last 2 films
you don't count.
Are
terrible. The first 3 are great. Third one's a little bit strange, but it is really good, and the ending is really dark for something that throughout is pretty lighthearted.
Yeah.
That first one though,
Booful.
I fucking love it. That's one of the best examples of a time travel movie, in my opinion, where the time travel is the plot twist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not outright like. Straight away, when you think Planet of the Apes, you don't think it's a movie about time travel, but it is. And it's a movie about human flaws and all that kind of stuff, and you get to see it through this great plot twist. Which such a wonderful way to deliver it as well, because it's just one visual thing. By seeing a monument that's so recognizable across the world, you learn so much. You learn that humans fucked the place up. You learn that it's time travel, it's Earth all along, just by seeing that image and him collapsing in front of it. No one outrightly says, you travel through time, Yeah. That's enough. That gives it all away. It's fucking fantastic. I love that film. Doesn't get enough credit.
No.
Say that about a movie. That's absolutely beloved. Like, it's like, The Empire Strikes Back doesn't get enough credit. People need to love that movie more.
But I think Ocarina of Time is probably the one game I think that stands out as the game with time travel. I could be wrong. There could be people listening to this going, "Well, you're fucking mad."
Well, I already know the one. If anyone does get in touch, the one that people are going to say, if they've played it, of course, surely they're going to go, "You fuckers, Chrono Trigger."
Yeah.
I played the start of Chrono Trigger. I haven't played nearly enough of it, but I know that that's pretty much what that game is about. And you can one of the interesting things about that game, because I have looked into it, is so it's an RPG party game, kind of like the Final Fantasy series or Dragon Quest, that kind of thing. But you build your party by collecting people from different time periods of the same world. So it's like this fantasy world, and you travel to different parts of it, and in those different parts, and apparently you could travel back and forth.
Oh.
And the map will look different. And so you get there's one time period where everyone is a frog and they all speak Shakespearean. So everyone will speak Shakespearean at that point. And one of your party members is one of those frogs. They're it's not like a small frog, it's like a humanoid frog thing. But he comes with you, and so every time you travel somewhere else, he still speaks kind of Shakespearean and doesn't really understand what other people are saying. Or you collect a robot at another point, and he joins your team, and it's a wacky fucking idea.
All the ideas we just said about 20 minutes ago is in Chrono Trigger.
No, not my one. My one's just not as good. What they did was fucking better. But yeah, Chrono Trigger has held up there as one of the best games ever made. People even say, which is the better RPG, that or Final Fantasy VI? And I go, hold on a second.
7 wasn't even in that.
Yeah. All right, you forgot the number 7.
It'd be interesting. It would be interesting to ask what people think is the best or most famous game that deals with time travel.
Another one that a lot of people would talk about.
BioShock?
And we might BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
We've all played that game.
Yeah, it's been a long time though. I can barely remember.
Yeah, I can't remember all the small nuances.
I remember my biggest flaw actually with it, right, was while playing it, and they were like, "Oh, here's this giant machine that we need," and they're like, "Oh, but how are we going to get it out of here?" Because they needed to bring it back to the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And the main girl was like, "Oh, but what if I open up a rift in time and transport that to the place? So put it in. What if I make it that it's already there for us? So we go forward in time where we've already moved it, essentially, right?" So she does that, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense."
Sorry,
right?
hold on. Sorry, just for a second. Is that not the plot of the new Bill and Ted movie?
Kind of.
It is, isn't it? Where they're like, why don't we just go into the future when we've already written the song and steal the song from ourselves?
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, that's one plot point by BioShock Infinite. We'll just go forward in time when the machine has already been moved there, after we've moved it, and they do it and everything. But I was just sitting there going, yeah, but how the fuck did they move it to begin with? Because they would have had to have physically moved it to the Vox Populi base for them to be able to travel forward in time where they've already moved it. So the machine is so big, how the fuck did they do it to begin with? And I was like, this is horseshit.
In that method.
Yeah, but
always did it that way.
Exactly.
That doesn't work. It's almost like this game is just not believable or something. All right, it's very unrealistic.
I love the debates that come out of time travels, time loops.
Yep.
There's something that kind of bother Eric actually sometimes, the whole time loop thing. But in BioShock Infinite, that's about multiple timelines?
Yes.
Essentially, wasn't it? Of the same or multiple realities. Is it more like
Yes.
Yes, both of those.
Well, reality.
Game, yes.
Every multiverse thing.
Well, yes, but every reality is built up of time and space. So even a multiple, if you're going to a different reality, you're going to a different time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like time isn't linear, so to speak. Like we see it as linear, or at least we perceive it as linear, but time can be fucking
washy, squibbly, wibbly lines going all over the place.
Construct, man. I actually love. Sorry to go off the topic of games at the moment, but just on the topic of time travel, there's a very interesting, and it probably is just the general principle for multiverses in general, but in Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is an animated movie, they talk about how every time someone makes a choice, they create another world.
Yeah.
And there's another version where you made the other choice.
The butterfly effect creates like a new reality.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fucking awesome. And like, they do this whole thing where there's this nihilistic character who's like he's a nihilistic version of Batman. And he wants to locate within the multiverse the very first Earth, the one where everything else kind of rippled
where it
from.
began.
Where it began. He wants to find it and destroy it because it would destroy everything. Because as a result, he'd be making the one choice that actually matters. Because in his mind, he was like, every time you make a choice, there's an alternative version of that choice, and so it doesn't actually have any impact in the greater scheme of reality.
Yeah.
Whereas if I destroy everything, that will actually matter. I was like, cool, you'll be dead, but cool, I hear you.
But if you if you destroy at the speed of light, it'll be energy.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, Dr. Brian Cox on right now. Or Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've never seen anyone explain the nerdiest shit with such passion.
Do you know he was like, Jesus, we're going off on topic, but sure, look, this is our take.
Yeah. If you want to give your take, listen to your own take.
He was talking about like when he was younger and like being interested in science, and science fiction really did interest him. and watching Star Trek, he was so convinced that we'd have, is it the warp drive? Is that what's in Star Trek to make them go super fast?
Yes.
My knowledge of Star Trek is not great.
I'm not Trekkie. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's just call it that. He was so convinced that they were going to like be able to travel the speed of light. By the time he was older, and just didn't understand how automatic doors would be ever a thing. Like in Star Trek, when they're coming on deck and the doors just open, he's like, here. This is so unbelievable.
Wait a second. How old is he? Did they not have automatic doors?
No.
What?
Yeah, that's
automatic doors.
Automatic
doors.
Let's look it up.
Well, can you imagine that then? So
I remember when we were children, automatic doors were like amazing. We thought we were like fucking Magneto.
We're not the same age as Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I know we're not saying, yeah, but Chris, like,
what?
How old is he that he did? Is that what you were saying?
I don't know what you said. Never mind what you said. I don't know what you said. What did you say?
I was saying, Chris, were you not saying that? Like, were you not surprised that Neil deGrasse Tyson didn't have automatic doors when he was growing up? Right?
Supposedly the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh.
How old is he?
Don't know. Well, I suppose he was a kid. He was a kid, like, so. I don't know.
Yeah, but he can't, like, he's not fucking 80, like it's 2020. If they came around in the 60s, like.
I don't. Yeah, but you see, they
doing the math here.
They would have been invented in the 60s, but when were they actually implemented in stores? Like, when would he have actually seen one? You know?
Yeah, fair enough. But it is weird that he would think that that's such a far off, distant thing. That that'll never happen.
I think that is funny.
I was gonna say something that it totally slipped my mind, but it had something to do with automatic doors.
Actual automatic doors for.
Well, I was gonna say, like, can you imagine, like, and I think we talked about this before, like, if you went back in time and brought like a phone with you and showed them, fuck. So if you imagine, like, you could go back in time, like, just 100 years and say, someday, them doors will open on their own. You're like, fuck off. They're like, that's not the future. Surely we'll be able to teleport. You're like, not so much.
Will we get hoverboards by 2015? No, not really. Flying cars or time machines.
Something that bothers me about movies that are based in the future.
Yeah.
I would really don't put a year on it. Don't put a year on it. Like,
well,
just
some
say,
of them are fine.
No, but just say in the not too distant future or something like that, so that no matter when you watch it, it can be a possibility or a fantasy. Because, like, I remember, like, iRobot.
Yes,
and that was
2021 or something, is it?
It's either 2021 or 2019 or something like that. Like, it's not. When it came out, it wasn't that far away.
Or Demolition Man.
Like,
Demolition Man happened apparently. Like, that's.
Yeah, like you definitely shouldn't put it in your lifetime, because like you're like, I'm gonna see that in a few years, and like, I don't know, it's just weird that if you get past it and now try go back and watch it.
Was there any?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was there anything you?
Fancy.
Was there anything that you've ever thought about that, like, at this point we would actually genuinely have, like, that you've seen in movies or games that you're like, yeah, that when I'm older, that's definitely going to be a thing?
I actually think when I was younger, I bought into the whole hover cars thing.
Yeah,
flying cars into that definitely. Because I think I just saw it in so many things that I was like, in iRobot actually that we just mentioned, it seemed very realistic to me because he has like basically an Audi that hovers and it looked like a very real believable car. Yeah. It's actually a great movie. It is. It's actually a really good movie, and he goes off in that, and I was like, I think that'll happen. It probably still will happen, but it's probably a long way off, and then they'll be the most expensive thing, and nobody will have them. But that's
I suppose the issue with hover cars, or anything that can fly or some of that, and giving them to civilians, is that, you know, a lot of people don't know how to fucking obey the rules of the road. Imagine trying to like navigate in air, like, where there's no
Yeah, but
fucking
man,
guidelines.
wait, hold on. I never thought that they'd be flying.
I'm so
No,
sure there would have
thought-
been flying cars at this
I
point.
get now. I know in iRobot there is a moment where he starts to go up buildings and shit. That's where, but there's a bit where he's just in the motorway, like it's just hovering over the road. That's what I thought we were gonna get.
Just no more potholes ever.
No skidding.
No need to
Never have to
change the tire.
Yeah. Really effective. Really, you can't run over a cat. You just can't.
No more roadkill.
No more roadkill. You know what? That's a really good idea.
Yeah, car companies should probably
You would
really
definitely,
get in
like,
on that.
You would run them on electricity, so they'd all just get charged. It'd be way more eco-friendly, lads. Hover cars, it's the way.
I think
It's
the only way you could do it is though that like they're all on a kind of monorail kind of system though. Like you would be able to go wherever the fuck you want.
No,
So that way
imagine that
it's like
you could have
it's magnets, you know, like the way you can have them
I was
hovering.
just about to say, you could have a magnetic system that if
Yeah.
you're about to crash, it just makes go like bounce them off each other so that you can't crash.
Yeah, but then it's always that like you know the way with magnets they always manage to fucking flip and join at the end.
Yeah, you end up like Cat Dog. Two cars rear-ended each other.
He went into the back of me. No, you went into the back of me.
Again, this episode is sponsored by Durex. Eric, to answer that question, is there anything that you ever, when you were younger, thought was going to come out in the future?
Probably projection screens or something.
Or better Skype signal?
Well, definitely better. If it's still breaking up.
We're getting like
fucking hell.
bits and pieces of this. We're gonna have to decrypt it. We'll have to fucking do time manipulation to go back and try and piece this fucking conversation together.
Yeah. We have to do after the Batman AR kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like, gotta find out what he said. Sick. Oh, actually, there's another time travel plot in a game. You might say, yeah, put that mic away. No one wants to know what you have to say. Fuck off. No, there's another time travel plot in a game that I had forgotten about, and it is the main plot of the game, and I thought it was a really clever way of rebooting and sequeling a series, and that was Mortal Kombat 9, which was just called Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah.
Get a thumbs up from Eric. I'll translate. Now, in Mortal Kombat 11, they also, like, that's very... The time travel is very heavy at the front. Like, they had the character Chronica, and they had younger versions of the characters meeting. I don't think it's as good in that one. I don't think the whole time thing is as strong in that one.
In which one?
In Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't think it's as good in that one as it is in 9, which is just... It starts with Armageddon. Everyone is dead. Everyone. The world is fucked. And Raiden sends a message back to himself in the past. And then he is trying... So then you're playing a remake of the events of the original games, but it's still a sequel. It's still following on from Armageddon. It was a great way to revisit the old tournaments, but with new gameplay. I thought it was fucking awesome. And seeing the characters that were all dead back, you're like, hey, this is a great way of doing it. But also, you have this looming thing where he keeps seeing people getting flashes of what they will become and trying to change it. And as a result, little things happen. So there's some butterfly effect stuff. Like, I think they save Smoke from becoming a cyborg. And as a result, Sub-Zero gets taken and becomes a cyborg. There's shit like that. And I thought it was fucking cool. And he was trying to decipher his own message. And so, like Shao Kahn is the one who kills Raiden in the future. And he crushes Raiden's amulet. And every time Raiden makes a decision, or like they win the first tournament, and Raiden, thank God we won. I think we did it. He looks at his amulet and it starts to crack. And every time they get closer to that future that he knows, it cracks more and more. And I thought it was a really plot device. Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, like you can even imagine, kind of going back to what myself and Eric were saying, is like having some sort of action adventure game that deals with time and time manipulation. Like that would be a really cool way of like kind of visually showing that decisions you make lead to a certain outcome. Kind of like the way the Paragon and the Renegade. It's like take that type of element, but within a time manipulation kind of journey. It's like there's going to be certain outcomes.
Eric's just nodding because he's like, I know I'm speaking, I get cut off, so
I'm sure you will get a few. It's just when you talk a lot.
You literally just have to keep it to like one-word answers.
Like, we can hear you.
We can hear you, man.
I agree.
I just thought Mortal Kombat 9 did it, and just calling it Mortal Kombat 2. So it was like a soft reboot of the series, but a continuation. I actually really like when games do that, or franchises do that in general. Like even I said earlier I'm not a Trekkie, but what J.J. Abrams did with Star Trek, I thought was really fucking clever.
Yeah, it was.
Where it's a reboot of the series, but it is actually a sequel or follow-on of the original Star Trek series.
Yeah.
Like that's such a great way of reviving a series, but not like disregarding what's come before, and making it all kind of canon. And it's one of the theories that I had about Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's what they're doing. That it's not just a remake, or a reboot. It's also a sequel. We'll have to see. We'll have to find out. I'm going to ask us very briefly, actually, on that topic. One of the biggest theories from that game was that Sephiroth in that game has time traveled.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think it was a time traveling Sephiroth?
Possibly. I don't know. Like, it's really hard to speculate. Like, I don't want to say.
I find it easy to speculate.
No, because we're not given
it's
enough.
wrong,
No, we're not. I don't think we're given enough evidence, like, to kind of speculate.
To say one way or the other.
Yeah, like it could literally be anything. It's hard to know. Like, he possibly did come back. He's possibly using the live stream to be able to do that. I don't know, but it could be anything.
All right, Eric, did you buy into the Sephiroth time traveling theory?
I mean, it's a possibility.
Did you buy it though? Do you buy into it?
I didn't buy anything. No, I think it's just that it's happened so much that Sephiroth's become self-aware.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he has time traveled. But yeah, we could be wrong. I don't think the Black Wing is enough to say that must be the Advent Children Sephiroth who has time traveled.
No, that's just a cosmetic component that they brought back.
Yeah, but that seems to be the grounding for... That seems to be what the whole thing is built on. It's like, he has the Black Wing! And he's as powerful as Advent Children Sephiroth. I was like, is he not always fucking powerful? He killed a dragon with one hit, like.
Like, he's a pretty tough guy.
Yeah, and he loses that fight. So, it's not... it's not that powerful, like. Pretty powerful. But Cloud does whoop him in the end, so...
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, but I can't see anymore.
No, I'm saying that there's a possibility that the Advent Children Sephiroth is actually set after this.
Oh, possibly. Yeah. Depending on how this all plays out and works out.
Yeah.
Very possible. There's probably multiple games out there that have either dealt with time manipulation or time travel, either gameplay or story-wise, maybe better than any of the things we've mentioned. I know a lot of people have a lot of love for BioShock Infinite, and a lot of people have a lot of love for Chrono Trigger. So maybe get in touch with us, either in the comments on YouTube or on social media, if you're listening to us on audio platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @TheBrothersSake, to let us know any games that you think handle time travel the best and how they did it. Any way that you would like to see the concept of time travel explored in video games. Or if you hate the concept of time travel, tell us why. And maybe point out games where you're like, they tried it in this, it didn't work. They tried it in this, it didn't work. You know, maybe you're like, it just doesn't work, leave it out. I don't know. Like, maybe you agree with what Adam said earlier, where movies are, and I think I would agree too, probably the best way to explore the concept of time travel, because someone else has control of it and can show it to you. Whereas if you put it in your hands, you have to limit it in some way. It's kind of like the whole thing of like trying to make a Superman game. It's like, great, but how do you do it and not like
feel limited?
Feel limited, yeah. Like how do you give like full control and not? I'd love to see someone pull off a super. So difficult. One last thing. There's this, since we were talking about time travel, both from Tenet and from video games and just the concept in general. Before we finish up, I thought it would be very fun to ask this classic age-old time travel philosophical debate question, which is, if you could travel back in time to when Hitler was a baby, would you kill him in the hopes of preventing World War II and the Holocaust?
Could you imagine if that happened? Like, if someone did that? Like, that would be the good premise for that game that I was talking about, you know? It's like, you're an espionage...
And kill it?
No, but like, for espionage, like, you and, like, some competing superpower, you go back in time to try and get the one up. Like, so, like, a new Cold War kind of a thing, you know? Like, if the A-bomb was never invented kind of thing, if you stole the Manhattan Project, you know, like, how would that shape how the Cold War went? You know, if Hitler was taken out of the equation, you know, what does that mean the Nazi Party would never actually happen, never rise?
Yeah, well, yeah, doesn't mean that.
Yeah, so like, what actually happens if Germany doesn't become that kind of huge force? Is it just, you know, Japan still would though?
Yes.
You know, like World War II isn't just fucking Germany. You know, the Russians were involved in World War II. Italy was involved in it. Fucking states in Africa were, and Japan.
It was a world
huge.
war, wasn't it?
It's actually in its title.
Yeah.
You know, it's in its title.
Gives it away a little bit.
So yeah, those are really, really interesting things to explore, and like you could explore them in game.
Yeah, and those are safe places to do it.
I think so.
To explore in a fictional setting, and it's just like, let's just see what would happen, or let's play with the idea of what could happen. It is I did ethics and philosophy in college, as well as other things, but that was one of the questions we were asked, was if you could go back in time, would you kill Hitler as a baby? I was like, that's such a strange question to ask. If I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't go to that period, to be honest.
Yeah. It's
like is that the only thing I can do? Is it like, no, you can only go to this moment where Hitler was a baby, or can I pick where I go? Because I think I'd like to see something.
Well, in all honesty, if it was like, if I had to go back in time to kill Hitler, I'd probably choose when he was World War One. Therefore, now he's just a casualty of war, and there's not really going to be I don't have to kill him as a baby. I'm killing him as an adult.
Yeah, because that's the interesting thing as well, is that like if you. No one would know, like, if it was an infant, no one would know that becomes the tyrannical leader of a country. Therefore, you're just a baby killer.
Yeah, you're evil, really.
You're never going to get that kind of I suppose infamy. I suppose, like, you wouldn't be famous for that. I guess it wouldn't be considered a good thing. No, you're just a baby killer. So you would be punished forever. But then it's hard to know, like, does that save 7 million Jews? Does that save like the occupation of France and Poland? Like, you don't know.
There's no way to know. Yeah, there's no way to know.
It's a great concept.
During World War One, you won't have to go down through the infamy of being a baby killer, because he's just a casualty of war. And yeah, you probably will stop the occupation of.
You don't know that though, because the Nazi Party you don't know if that would still go on.
Still could. I mean, Heinrich Himmler, Joseph Goebbels, they all shared same ideas, really.
Yeah.
All it took was someone to kind of light the spark, I suppose, in a way. You know, it's kind of like. No, I won't make the comparison. Never mind. I don't even want to fucking open up that can of worms. I'm not that interested in it. But actually, a friend of mine once answered that question really interestingly. Like, lots of people got into but would have stopped this, would have stopped that. Yeah, but you're not certain it would. And, you know, yeah, but even if you're not certain, if there's a possibility that it can, shouldn't you do it, even if it's evil and all this kind of stuff? Like, there's interesting avenues you could go down from a moral philosophy point of view. But there was a friend of mine, and she said, could I decide to go back to see him as a child? And we were, yeah, why? Like, why would that make it any easier or harder or what? It's like, okay, well, I would introduce him to a little Jewish boy.
I know, but that doesn't.
I was like,
but it's,
like I said, yeah, it still
yeah.
doesn't mean
It doesn't seem to mean anything.
but it could.
It could be like it could end up like the fox and hound, though, Chris. They were friends as puppies.
It could also be the time loop thing, where doing that is actually
the cause. Oh my god, that'd be such a badass thing to explore.
Terminator, like time loop plotting or Lost.
Yeah.
Who did what?
It's like someone trying to prevent World War III ended up causing it. Like,
yeah, it's that kind of shit. I love those kind of time plots.
Yeah.
Cool. Which came first, lads? The chicken or the egg?
Yes.
The egg.
Or the chicken?
No, the egg would have come first because that's like the equivalent of, like, the human had to come from the ape, so the chicken had to come from the egg. Which
the egg isn't a fucking species, like.
No, I know that.
The egg
I know that.
from the dodo.
But what I'm saying is that chickens are descendants of a previous species. So you had to have that species first.
Dinosaurs,
which
man.
Would have laid the
they were
egg.
Dinosaurs.
But the dinosaur would have evolved into something else, which would have evolved into chicken. Which, like, we didn't just come straight from apes, but there was obviously lots of other ones. So therefore, the egg had to be first.
Obviously the egg.
Obviously, it's gradual, right? But
yes,
imagine the first time an egg hatches and the animal looks fucking way different, and it's like, what the fuck is that?
Well, it wouldn't be that, like, that. Sudden...
I know. That's what I said. Obviously, it's gradual.
Yeah, it's very gradual.
At what point does it start looking a bit different? And yeah, it takes a long time, but that's evolution. Anyway, look at that. Sums up our thoughts on the concept of time travel as explored in games, and the games that we thought touched on it very well, either in gameplay or story. We didn't delve into anything too in depth, really. It was just seeing.
Well, we started on like talking about time manipulation in cinema to almost delving into Darwinism. Like, that was our discussion right there.
Yeah, well, look, you did this.
time travel.
You did this. Time is not a straight line, okay? So, and also we kicked off the conversation with Tenet. So, if you have seen Tenet, please get in touch to let us know what you thought of that movie and what you thought of the different things they did with time in that. And then, if you have played games that involve time travel, either as whether it's a small part of the plot, a major part of the plot, a small game mechanic, or a major game mechanic, much like many of the ones that we've named out, get in touch to let us know what you thought of those games, what you thought of as a plot device, what you think about it as a mechanic, and what you think about time travel as a whole. And also, if you have any other interesting time travel dilemmas, like stuff like what you said about the Hitler as a baby thing is a very famous one, but like, if you could go back in time and kill yourself, is that possible? Yeah.
Or does that just create you?
Yeah. Any kind of interesting philosophical time travel moral dilemmas, throw them our way. I'd love to see some. I'd love to start thinking about it and engage people about it. I did ethics, so any of those kind of moral debates, I fucking love them. I could eat them up. Get in touch, let us know. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week to talk about more wacky shit. Thank you.
Bye-bye.